red light.
We don't know.
I'm gonna take John's. Good evening and Merry Christmas. It's December 22nd, 2011.
Sounds like
Would
a
you start the
DJ,
roll
doesn't
call? Well, no, there's a reason for that one. Go ahead, John. Start the roll call, please, and we'll go towards Richard.
I certainly will. Merry Christmas, Goffstown, and I'm John Burt.
Richard Meany.
Richard Fletcher.
Guy Karen?
Dan Cloutier.
Phil Kendall.
Ivan Bellavo.
Bill Bates.
Brian Lewis.
Scott Gross.
Lisa Jukes.
Jennifer Thoreau.
Elizabeth DeBrule.
And we're waiting for Checker Hansen. I didn't hear from her. Any news from anybody else? Okay, then she might be just running a little late. Okay, we have a number of items to do tonight. As we promised, you have the ability of bringing the town up for any more modifications, but then we need to send a number to public session. After public session, we will meet again, okay, to determine what we want to send to the deliberative session, okay? At that point, it'll be the same thing. Any adjustments could be made after. So this is not really the final swing. Your final swing from this committee will be in January after the public session. Same and likewise for the school. We will do the same thing. You can make motions on the school. I saw your hand, by the way.
Yep.
And we will go and send it to public hearing so that we can actually get the presentation done, and after the public hearing, we'll have the opportunity to make adjustments and vote on what's gonna go to the deliberative session. From there, the voters take over. We also have to go through the Goffstown Village Water Precinct budget. I handed those out a few weeks ago, and yes, we do need to do that because under the Municipal Budget Act of RSA 32, and I have to segue into this, I had a very lengthy conversation with the Department of Revenue Administration, and just as a short ski, there are two forms the Department of Revenue receive from water districts, water precincts, call them whatever you want. There's the MS 37 and there's the MS 36. If you are what they consider part of the Municipal Budget Act, they receive the 37. They accept it. If you are not, they get the 36. The Goffstown Water District, since they could only go back to their online, what they had in their files presently, to 1995. They have been submitting the MS 37 since at least 1995, and if we need to, we can go back. She said they have them on microfiche to see when they changed from either a 36 to a 37. So at this point in time, the Department of Revenue Administration is expecting to see an MS 37. The MS 37 is our job, okay? So we will also have to do that tonight. So, the will of the committee, do you want to go, no, forget it. I think we did the first part of the town and the school. I would probably like to take the Goffstown Village Precinct first, but Phil had his hand up and Scott had his hand up. So, what do you got?
Yeah, just clarification. After the public hearing, you're saying we have another whack at it. But don't we really just address the questions that came up and anything that's related to any comments that came out at the public hearing, not the whole budget if we decide to make a adjustment on some line or whatever?
It's not required. The only requirement in law is that if anything wasn't brought up at the public session, it cannot be added to the budget after the public session, okay? And traditionally, we've taken the entire budget and presented it at the public session. So that it would be there. So if we came back and someone said, well, I want to do this, we can't insert it into the budget. It has to have been disclosed at the public session. But, for instance, we'll go to the public session, and one of the adjustments we made were for, the first adjustment was the equipment, okay? So I'm presuming that'll be presented. So if someone came back here and wanted to make a motion to adjust equipment, they could, because it was discussed. Anything in the budget that we got from the school is fair game. But if someone said, you know what, the school needs a vehicle, if that wasn't discussed and it wasn't requested and it wasn't disclosed at the public session, we couldn't add it in.
I understand that, but
Okay.
what if we, at this present time, we remove the whiteboards, the smart boards?
No.
That doesn't get discussed at the public hearing. Can that be modified?
If it doesn't get discussed, no, but traditionally, when you go and you say, we adopted the school's presentation to the Budget Committee, the school board's presentation of the 36 million, yada, 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 that includes those smart boards. So in essence, by association, it's been discussed.
Okay.
It's the whole book. Scott?
Yeah, I had three requests from the town, the Board of Selectmen to discuss with respect to our budget, requests for modifications.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time.
No, well, just for a second, let me do this first, to see if do you guys want to do the town, the school, or do you want to dispense of, because we haven't done this yet. We haven't gone our first whack at the Goffstown Village Water District yet. Do you guys still have all your copies of this? I handed them out a few weeks ago. It is 600, and the 2011 budget was 649,700. Their 2012 request is $707,892. So let's do that, and Scott, we'll come back to you, okay?
Yep.
So what I'm gonna need,
A motion to adopt?
motion to, just like this, we need a starting point. You wanna make,
I'll make a motion to
you
accept.
want to second it? Okay. So Dick makes a motion and Philip seconds to get us to the starting point for the Goffstown Village Water District, and that amount is $707,892. Just like always, do we want to discuss that starting point? Dick, do you want to say anything about the starting point? Not about the budget, but just the starting point.
No, other than the fact that the starting point is $87,217 more than last year.
Okay, Philip,
The
anything?
reason for that is so we
No,
can.
I'll get into that in a little bit, Dick. Anything on the second for the starting point?
It's consistent with the other budgets
Cool.
we've looked at.
Any other comments? Those in favor of adopting the starting point for the GVWD at 707,892 signify by raising your hand, please.
Scott?
Scott's not at the table,
I'm abstaining.
so that is unanimous. Dick, would you go ahead and feel free at this point in time to discuss and make your comments on the presentation of the 707,892?
Well, as you will see, that it is a considerable amount of money more than last year. The reason that it's more is to finish the water main on Elm Street down to the school, which was our goal to have it there this year. And it would have been there, but we had to change our plan of attack because they were doing Spring Street, redoing the street, and that water main on that street was in real bad shape. And so we diverted the money that we raised last year to do the other section on Elm Street so that we could do Spring Street, seeing that they were doing the street. And it was our one chance so we wouldn't have to dig up the street and make a mess there later on. And so this year we put in the money to do that section of Elm Street all the way to the school, which is roughly 2,000 feet. And the money that we're using is not money that will raise rates or change anything. It's the money that we're gonna take out of our savings accounts to pay for it. Other than that, the budget pretty much from year to year covers the things that happen. There's a few items in there to do some paving at the water plant on the mountain. And to do some work on some dams that are required by the state. But without with that money that's in the that we're taking out of savings, the budget would actually be less than last year.
Philip, questions for Dick?
Dick, this budget, your operating budget's offset by user fees, correct? 100% or what's taken out of savings?
Yeah, the rates that, the water that people use, so much per cubic foot.
On page 3, that is, 4901. It says building improvements, $1,000. It's the second sheet of the expenses.
Okay, for,
Capital outlay, building improvements,
You
$1,000.
lost your last page, Dick. You ripped it off.
well, let me get another one. Building improvements?
Yeah, it says
Yeah,
$1,000. It was budgeted in 2011, but nothing got spent. I didn't know if there was anything specific you were looking to do again, or is that just a placeholder in case
Well,
somebody
no,
bumps
that-
into the wall?
That covers 3 buildings that we have. And one of them is the coving on the new building that we just built. The ice backed up and it's rotted some of the overhang, so that's gotta be fixed. And general repair on the buildings themselves, like, you know, locks, things that happen.
Further questions for Dick on Elizabeth?
Executive salaries,
Yeah.
how many employees does that, how many
3.
people are we talking about?
3.
What positions are those?
Pardon?
What positions?
Superintendent and a water person that works with the superintendent, and he works by himself, reads meters, and it's a half-time position for the secretary.
Okay,
And the waterworks only, the main office is only open a half a day each day, 5 days a week. That's that half position, and she's a secretary that does all the billing.
so when you go in to pay your bills, she's the one you hand it to?
Right.
So what, do you know the in the raises here, it looks like there's
3%.
$8,500?
3%.
It's what, 3%?
It's 3%.
Okay.
I'm doing a little calculation here.
Can I ask another question while you're calculating?
Yeah, go ahead, because that's, go ahead.
4197, advertising. That line was budgeted at $500 and only $57.50 has been spent. What, advertising for what? What would be included in that line?
Meetings. We were gonna have a special meeting, things like that, positions.
Okay, so why
Uh,
was so little of it expended?
Checkers here.
I guess all I can say is, we haven't had to spend it because there was no position, there's no, we haven't had to do any advertising, for anything at the present time. Let's see, there's, I really don't know the answer.
So personnel's been stable,
Yeah,
there hasn't been any turnover, so the only advertising would have been for the annual meeting.
yes,
And there's just one of, it's an annual meeting, there's just one of them a year, right?
yes.
Okay.
And I don't think we even spend money on that. We may have. I'm not positive. It might be in the paper. But I think we rely on the annual town report, which is in there of our annual meeting.
So it appears in the town report to tell people that the annual meeting's coming up?
Post it, we have to post it in 3 places, okay? But that's only a piece of paper, so, you know, we don't spend any money on that, really, to speak of.
But I mean, you said you rely on the town report, so like the town report, you pick it up on election day and it says the annual meeting's gonna be, whatever, 2 weeks from now?
It gives a date in March,
Okay,
when it will be, the time, where it'll be, and the warrant.
okay,
In other words, in the warrant will be this figure that shows on the bottom line, you know, for the operation of the waterworks. I mean, the ratepayers have to vote on that at the annual meeting. We elect a position a year in the commission, there's an article usually in there to give us the authority to spend up to $1,000 in an emergency. A few things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Jen?
Just below that, by two, licensing fees, budgeted for 2,000, expense for 148.60. It's still under 4197.
Okay, licensing fees.
What would it be used, what would those,
Probably most of that at the end of the year has been paid to the state for our dams.
okay. So those go to the state at the end of the year, not, that's why it's so low expense.
I would say, yes.
Guy?
Just to confirm, Dick, your budget has no tax impact at all. Is that correct? You're funded by the ratepayers and
Right.
your savings, right?
The
As
amount
Phil
of-
had mentioned
The
earlier.
amount of water used, yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Further questions? Philip?
Just, Dick, on the salaries, you had said it's a 3% raise.
Yep.
Doing quick math, it actually works out to about a 6.25% raise. Was it supposed to be a 3% raise?
Or the increase from 133,640 to 142
Is a 6.25%
Right.
raise.
is much more than,
Okay, and
3%.
there's other, there's overtime in there for overtime work and what have you, which,
About 3% plus overtime.
that's
just-
gotta be
okay.
what the difference is, yeah.
Further questions from the members? Seeing none, any modifications? Seeing none, I need to get a motion to adopt 707-892 to send to public session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion by Philip. And I think we debate this. So go ahead and state your reasons for wanting to send that to public session. You don't have to if it's self-evident.
Self-evident.
Guy?
Pretty much what Bill said. I've heard the answers to the questions that I might have had already.
Further discussion on sending 707-892 to public session? Seeing none, you ready for the question? The question is, do we want to send 707-892 to public session? If you agree, please signify by raising your hand and saying yes. No yeses, but that's okay. Opposed? Abstained? Did everybody vote? Okay. Elizabeth
Abstain.
abstained, and Scott abstained. Give me a moment. I have to open up Checker's column again. Checker's here, by the way.
Come here.
Did everybody vote in the affirmative other than that? Okay, so the motion passes 12-0-2. Okay, Scott, I'll recognize you for motions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were several events that occurred after this budget committee had, deliberated the town budget, and because it may have implications on the preparation of this budget, I'd like to, if you could indulge me in 4 or 5 items to discuss for modification. The first one is, after the Board of Selectmen presented our budget to you, the supervisors of the checklist appeared before the Board of Selectmen, and they reviewed their duties with us. And in case you don't know, Denise LeMay, Tina Daniels, Christine Daniels, and it used to be Suzanne Tremblay, who's here now. It's temporarily, it's Al DeRusso, and then that will be, there'll be an elected position. They don't know exactly when the last time there was a raise, but they believe it's somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago was the last time that they received a raise. They get paid currently $1,200, $100 a month. And They were very concerned about the time that it takes to do their job. It's much more labor extensive, and I'm sure the chair can attest to it, knowing what he knows from the Secretary of State's position where he used to work, all the different ins and outs that you have to do for elections now. They were asking for, they asked the Board of Selectmen to support a $300 per person increase. So they would essentially being paid $1,500 a year. So that would be a $900 increase to line 1041.
Well, what we're gonna do, Scott, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Sure.
Why don't you just tell us all of them?
Sure.
That way I can stay within the parameters and constraints
Okay.
of just discussion.
That's
And then the
beautiful.
motion
Okay.
will be made.
The second one was good news, very good news. The town was recently received a grant award through the federal government. And if you recall, in our CIP, we had put in, the Chief O'Brien put in for a grant for a vehicle exhaust system for our fire stations, as well as to sprinkler our fire stations, put in fire sprinklers. That was a $200,000 grant, which we were awarded. There is a 5% match, and I would be respectfully requesting that the Budget Committee support the inclusion of that 5% match, which equals $10,000 in the station repair line. Ancillary to,
That's Station 18, right?
two, that would be Station 18 and 19,
Both stations. okay.
both stations.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Line functions.
55535. As a ancillary to that, with also relation to the fire department, we will be seeking a decrease in the fire hydrant line. Hydrant charges, that would be 75100. That would be in the precise amount of $3,618. There was, we thought originally that Manchester Waterworks would be charging a $5 increase in their fee. They have since voted not to do that, so we'd like that to be reflected.
3618.
3618. Sorry. The third item, I had a discussion with
Fourth item.
Evelyn Redmond. I'm sorry? It's my fourth?
Yep.
Oh, fourth, okay. Fourth item, right. Fourth item, I had a third item. Fourth item would be, I had a discussion with our welfare administrator, Evelyn Redmond,
Oh, yes, okay.
and she was very concerned about the $10,000 reduction, and I would like to, she was requesting that the Budget Committee reconsider that. She stated that RSA 165 mandates that municipalities relieve and maintain individuals who are poor and unable to support themselves, and that's a mandate, regardless of the amount that the municipality has budgeted. Here are some important statistics that she'd like you to pay attention to, if you could, when you reconsider it. In the year 2011, the state of New Hampshire funded $34 million for low-income heating assistance. In the 2012 fiscal year, the state of New Hampshire funded that at 14.7, so a reduction of almost $20 million. At the time when it was budgeted, when the state was providing $34 million, oil was at $3.08 a gallon. Now that in the 2012 fiscal year, while it's only budgeted at that 14.7 million, oil is currently priced at about $360 a gallon. So you'll see there's a 56% reduction in the funding. However, there's a 16% increase in the fuel cost. To be eligible for fuel assistance, the gross household income must be less than $28,000 for a family of 4. And applicants with higher limits go on a waiting list. The electric discount program now only applied to a maximum of 700 kilowatts per month. The balance of usage is billed at regular rates, and that affects those who use electric for heat and hot water the most, dramatically. The winter moratorium for electric shutoffs is invalid if the current bill, electric heat customers, is over $450 and $250 for non-electric heat customers. The New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services cut programs of cash assistance to unemployed parents. That was as of last year, July 1st. It cut funding for the congregate housing for seniors. It cut funding to pay for prescriptions and transportation for catastrophic illness. It cut 24 continuing care beds at the psychiatric hospital. It cut funding for mental health case management and substance abuse, and it cut funding for children in need of services
Hey,
program.
Scott,
Yeah.
it's not a new item, that we're rehashing an item we already dealt with.
Correct.
So I'd like to stop there if we can.
Sure. Last but not least, we would respectfully request that you reconsider a budget item that in this year's current budget, we were unable to get to. And you'll recall in this year's CIP, which was approved, we had budgeted $50,000 for a replacement of the HVAC system here at Town Hall. Along with that $50,000, there was $25,000 of offsetting revenue from the Mildred Stark Fund. Unfortunately, as we went through our process of looking into our revenue collection and reconfiguring Town Hall and getting an architect to look at that, we held off on the HVAC because we weren't sure what impact that might have on the ductwork. So we did not spend any of those monies, and all of those monies will be going back to surplus. But we would respectfully request that $50,000 once again be placed in next year's budget, again with the $25,000 offsetting revenue. And those are the only items that I have, and thank you.
You're welcome. What I'd like to do, Bill, did you have a question?
Yes,
or-
it's just a point of recent news to Scott's item number 4. It was announced today that the fuel assistant funds that, as he had stated, were funded at $14 million for 2012, that subsequent federal funds had been found and voted on, and that fund will be restored to $28 million. That's new news today, so now the fuel assistance fund has gone from a meager 14 million back up to 28 million, which is great news for a lot of people who need help, so.
And in that same vein, what I'd like to do is, have the question time now, so we don't have to make a motion saying, can we pause for additional questions? So, any further questions on the supervisor, the checklist request for an increase? We understand the concept. What about the 5% match for the Station 18 and 19 exhaust mitigation?
You saying that 5% match is not in the budget right now?
Correct. We didn't know if we were gonna get the grant. And we did get it.
It's required to get the 200.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Hang on a second. We got the grant?
We have not accepted it, but we were awarded it.
Okay, and by the time we accept
We
it,
have
we have to
30
have
days
them-
to accept it, and that date will, January 16th, I believe, is when we must officially hit the yes button. Is
But,
that correct, Chief?
January 6th?
We're having a public hearing on the 4th.
4th, okay.
okay, but we won't be voting until March.
I understand that.
So you'll be, if you
Well,
say
we-
yes,
we-
you'll find the money from someplace. If it's not done by this committee.
That's correct,
If
but
you
we're-
say yes, there are a lot of ifs there. Okay?
This is for improvements to 18 and 19?
Correct.
Okay. Aren't the improvements you described already part of a special article that's going to go out for putting up a new building at 18 and renovating 18?
That, the Board of Selectmen voted not to put a special article for for those type of station improvements and expansion this year.
Okay, so this would be for venting the current buildings we have without doing anything
That
else?
is correct, and that's all
Okay.
the grant would have allowed us to do anyway, even though even though the plans may have called for an expansion of the footprint on that facility, it would not have covered the venting or the sprinkling of anything more than the current footprint of the envelope of the building we have now.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Did you have something extra, Sue? I saw your hand. Okay. Further questions on the 18, 19? Yeah, John?
Scott, so if they go forward with this, does that mean, the new fire station's on the back burner for several years?
No,
Because why invest in that if we're still looking at a new fire station in 2 or 3 years?
Okay, just to clarify, at one point, we were looking at a central station, and we are no longer looking at a central station. We are looking at making improvements to our current stations, and the possibility of additions to some of our stations, most notably the Church Street station. What we decided was, the Board of Selectmen, this past week decided, although we have some preliminary drawings and architectural work on improvements to 18, we decided to hold off. Our plan now is to create a community committee to look at what we have at our fire station, to look at the plans that have been presented, to say, do we need to do all of this? Can we scale back? This is gonna be at least 1 year away. So we may put it on the ballot next year, it may be further out, but we're taking a 1 year break to really study it a lot harder and to educate the community as to what the needs are. A lot of people don't know that it's been since the 1950s that these buildings have not been really improved upon. But in the meantime, we will do the sprinklering and we will do the diesel fuel, the exhaust of that building and then of the other fire station as well.
And then any expansions would be for the current buildings,
Correct.
not a central.
That is correct. It was too expensive. It was gonna be $7 million to build another fire station in town, and we have decided that that's just impractical. So we'd be looking at renovating and possibly expanding our current station or stations.
I understand the last ones were built all free labor. Most of them, you know. with
We're
town
going
labor,
beyond
but
the
yes.
scope, but. Further questions on the match question? Philip, you had your hand up, and then Guy.
Just, the matches for the ventilating of the bays, if there was to be an addition or renovation to the Church Street, those bays would still stay in use. So the ventilation system would not go to waste, if you will, because those bays aren't going away with any renovation, if I remember correctly.
Based upon the preliminary architectural work that's been done, those bays would continue to be bays,
Thank
yes.
Guy?
No, all set, thanks. Withdraw.
Okay. Any questions on the reduction to the fire hydrants? Seeing none? I had to ask, it was in there. Any further questions on the, I think it was talked about enough, but I'll ask the 10K for welfare to put it back in, although we shouldn't really ask the question because that was a motion from the last time, but
Yeah,
Bill?
that was my point of order. Are we gonna take these and call out the line numbers and?
We
do a
will
formal vote?
here's the thing, somebody's gonna make a motion. Okay, we're gonna go back into our motion making. This is like information discovery.
Got it.
Okay, and so the next thing, so any information discovery on the 10% request for welfare, what I'm trying to do is trying to avoid stopping and pausing for additional information, if we can. I saw Bill's hand and then Dick, John's hand and then Dick. John?
Well, I'm just gonna make a comment. Should I wait until we go into debate on
Is
this
it
one?
on the reduction to welfare? Yeah, if it's on the, whether or not it's a good thing to have a motion, then I'd like to wait, because we're not debating right now. You want more information.
No, it's just a comment, so
Okay.
I'll wait.
Dick?
I was just gonna ask for more information, so I guess I'll.
Well, this is the time to ask for
Okay.
more information.
Scott, do you have a figure of maybe what they used for fuel, in the past year or the years?
Yes, I do.
In gallons?
Yeah, no, I don't have, what Evelyn provided to me, Dick, this is what she stated, that heat and electric assistance is about 16% of the general assistance budget. Rental assistance, there is some heat included in that, because some of these rentals include heat. That accounts for 54% of general assistance.
Further questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's, and the last was the HVAC system that doesn't appear to be getting done tonight. It was budgeted at 50, and with a 25,000 from the trust for net 25. Philip?
The way you presented this told me, answer my question.
Okay. Guy?
I'm sure this is, just because I haven't got a handle on it. The money we budgeted last year went where?
It's going back to surplus, it's going back to the general fund, it's
Great.
unexpended.
So explain to me why we can't
use it.
Encumber. We can't encumber it because we didn't put it out for a request.
There's no
for-
RFP
there's no
yet, and you
RFP,
have to go
therefore
through
we
the
can't.
process.
Originally,
Thought
you.
I've seen,
You gotta have a contract.
yeah, I know, but didn't we do something with the Mountain View oil tank without having a contract? The school district encumbered some funds last year or the year before without having a contract. Didn't that happen?
Wait, how is that relevant?
Well, it means
Well-
it's a procedure that was done, that a precedent was set with that procedure, so why couldn't we do
They
it?
actually had a contract, from what I remember asking. They had an agreement with the person who was going to do the tank with a stated position in there that says, well, if this is what it is, we think you need to replace the tank. And so they set a contract to replace the tank, and that was dependent on the step one, which was to check it to see if it really needed to be changed. And if it did, then the money was there. If it didn't, then that part of the contract wasn't executed. It's a
There was
slippery-
a contract.
there were signatures from the school board and or from whomever, and signatures from the
So
person who's gonna
then,
do
the
it.
presumption is that the unexpended funds would then be used to offset the tax rate?
they lapse, they go to the general
Yes.
fund, which then
Okay,
offsets
so
the
we're
tax rate.
basically doing this, okay, all right, just wanna
It
make sure.
becomes a
it was-
wash, essentially.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, because if it gets moved over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Further questions? Bill?
So the final question that would be that what you're asking for is to put 50,000 into a proposed budget to readdress that in the new fiscal year.
That is correct. In the CIP where it was.
Okay.
I can give you the line if you want it later.
Okay.
We're gonna find it if there is a motion.
I have the line.
Okay. Further questions on anything?
Something.
Yep.
We'll take these one at a time?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
What, we will take them, we're gonna go into motion making, so however the motion is made is how we will take it. Dick?
I think that I'd like to express my opinion on this grant, and I think it's within a,
Motion has been made.
Which grant, the $10,000? For the?
no, the 200,000,
Yeah, the exhaust.
yeah.
Do you have a
Well, no,
question on it
The
yet?
sprinklers and the exhaust.
Okay, do you have a question to get additional
Well,
information?
No, okay.
Because
I
this is
think-
the difference between
okay.
if the motion isn't made,
I'm ready to vote for it, but,
oh, we're not ready, we're not even close to that yet.
okay, I just wanna say, I'm ready to vote for it,
Okay.
because of the investment we have in equipment over there. If it burns up tomorrow, and don't think for 1 minute that the fire stations in the
Right.
state of New Hampshire or anywhere else haven't burned up in the past.
Rimmon Street, okay,
And a sprinkler system will save your equipment.
yeah,
And
okay.
the
That-
only other question is the exhaust system. We have exhaust systems in these stations now. They were put in probably 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they didn't have exhaust systems like they do today. And I'm just wondering if we put money into exhaust systems and then, we remodel a station and we have to change bays and tear some of it out, if we're wasting our money.
Okay, done questions?
I'll make a motion.
Well, I was gonna recognize,
Okay.
Scott, but I can recognize anybody, I mean, we're open up for, motions, so I already kinda told Scott.
Motion on the town.
Yeah, on the town, so we'll motion it up for the towns, for modifications, things of that nature. Guy?
Motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation on the, what's the title for this thing? The
Well, no,
exhaust system?
Yeah.
Well,
And
let's just add, you wanna add $10,000 to what is currently zero for the match money for the exhaust
Yeah.
and
Grant.
sprinkler? Is it
Mr.
a
Chair, a
Yes.
point of order.
It's
I
5,000.
believe it's
5,000.
5,535 is the appropriate place to put it. It would be station maintenance, hold on.
Is this CIP? Is this gonna be
No.
CIP or is it gonna be in the
No,
fire?
it would be under fire
It
department,
is 55535.
Yep.
55535, I believe.
42201,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you have to start there.
You wanna go from 10,000 to
55535.
That is correct.
55535, let me flip the page. And right now, there is 10,000 there right now, unless we made motions to it. before, did we?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so you want to increase that from 10,000 to 20,000.
Correct.
It's my motion, Scott, but yes, that's what I.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Are you
sir.
gonna second it, Scott?
I'll second it.
Would you speak to your motion, please, Guy?
No need, I think, just from the discussion we had, I think this is a no-brainer, especially with the match and the need.
Scott,
Ditto.
further questions? Seeing none, you ready for the question? The question is, should we modify 42201-55535 for the match of 10,000? So the budget would go from 10 to 20, that's an additional 10,000. Those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Anybody opposed? I think that was unanimous. Okay, that passes 14-0. The floor is open for further, Scott?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we decrease line 10-42201-75100, fire operations, fire hydrants, by $3,618.
Yeah, can you, and this is in the fire department, so that's under, is that still 42201?
Yeah.
And what is the current?
It is currently,
157,023.
that's correct.
And you need 153,405. Okay, there's a motion on the table to reduce fire hydrants from 157,023 to 153,405. That's $3,618, and I believe I forward that email to everybody.
I'll second it.
Okay, you wanna speak to your motion, Scott?
Yeah, the Manchester water rate increase that was gonna be 5% is not, they voted not to pass that along to the community, so we're just trying to adjust it to reflect that.
Philip, your second?
No need for further discussion.
Any questions? Seeing none, you ready for the question? I don't have to repeat it, do I? You understand the question? Question is to reduce the fire hydrants by $3,618. Those in favor signify by raising your hand, please. I see all hands, that is unanimous. That's 14-0-0.
I'd like to make a motion.
Philip has a motion.
I'm not sure of the line, maybe Scott can help me out. I'd like to add $900 to the current
Supervisor to the checklist.
supervisor to the checklist.
That is 10-41401-41250.
That's
Elected
called elected
officials.
officials, currently at 27,412. You want that to be 28,312, for an increase of $900.
Second.
Okay, do you wanna speak to your motion, Philip?
If it's truly been 10 years before they've got an adjustment, it is a lot of work. Making a small increase.
Guy?
Yeah, 10 years, yeah. Let's do it.
Further question, comments? Seeing none, those in favor of increasing the line, $900 for supervisor of the checklist stipends, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? That would be 13-1, motion passes. John is the one.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes?
On the next motion, since it was specifically addressed before,
Yep.
this is with regard to welfare.
Yep.
Is the more appropriate manner to make the motion as a motion to reconsider?
Nope. Because right now, the way we've done it, we adopted the motion, so basically that's what the budget is, so it's just a regular motion, and you would, we could do it that, but what I'd like to do is just make the motion to go from a number to a number, and whatever the number is. Direct assistance was reduced from 50 to 40.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, I mean,
Yes.
since we had already gone through town things once,
Yep.
is this falling into the,
Second
going
time.
through the second time?
Yes,
Okay.
we are in the second time. That's why I'm saying, right now, we have a budget, and that line is $40,000. Is there a motion? Scott?
Mr. Chair, I respectfully request that I make a motion to increase the direct assistance line from what is currently budgeted at $40,000, and increase that by $10,000 to a total of $50,000, and that is line 10-44410-56300,
And it's titled Direct Assistance.
direct assistance.
There's a motion to increase direct assistance from $40,000 to $50,000. Is there a second? Lisa seconds. Scott, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to read most of what Evelyn had shared with me. As you can see, that the need is such that she is very concerned about us not budgeting appropriately. We are mandated to provide these services, and even though I'm glad what you said, Bill. I hope that's accurate wherever you got your information about federal government releasing more funds and State Farm, State Farm, the town of Goffstown getting more money for welfare. I wasn't privy to that. That being the case, though, there is a need. We are seeing, I know Evelyn has seen a lot of activity over the last couple of months in the general assistance area. And I believe that, and again, any monies that don't get spent here, they don't get spent in any other way. So we don't spend it and do interdepartmental transfers from this line. So the Board of Selectmen and the Welfare Administrator, General Assistance Administrator have always been true to the line. Whatever monies are not spent get returned to the general fund.
And Lisa, you want to speak to your second?
No.
Further questions, John? And then we'll segue to Guy.
I'm gonna oppose this, and the reason is, Scott said that, 16% was for electricity and fuel, if I remember correctly. And Bill Bates is correct. I would say for the last three, well, it was around Thanksgiving, I started receiving phone calls. Being a state rep, they reached out to me because the fuel assistance was only funded at 14 million. So I've been in contact with Senator Ayotte and plus also Senator Shaheen, both of their offices, and they have assured me that the bill is correct. It is going to be 28 million. Last year it was 34. But they are also further reaching to fully fund it. I believe it was Senator Shaheen's office that said that will probably be the case. Senator Ayotte's office did not confirm that when I questioned them. I also talked with the people that passed this out, and I don't have the records in front of me, the group that passes this out for the state, and they also said that, additional funding is coming. So I just don't see a need for the extra 10,000, especially, now that we went from 14 million up to 28 million, and I'm hoping that we're gonna see the full 34 million.
I have Guy and then Dick.
I'm not gonna support this motion either. Just as we discussed earlier, when we increased or approved an increase to this line from the current adopted budget of 15,000 up to 40, is that we're just not tracking for doubling this amount from 25 to 50. 40, to me, based on history, and now we have the additional information from Bill, I just can't justify saying yes to doubling this amount.
Dick?
I think what Bill is talking about is probably the money goes to the county. It doesn't come direct to the town of Goffstown. So that even though the town of Goffstown has fuel assistance, if they run out of money, they can send the people to the county. Now, I may be wrong, but it appears to me the county does this too.
John?
Yeah, I believe only the state, the federal government gives the fuel assistance to the state, and the state turns it over to a department that passes it out, and they set the guidelines. I believe the county doesn't have it, if I understand right. I've never heard the county being mixed into this in all my conversations with the two senators and plus this department that's dealing with it. So again, the guideline is set from the state, saying, you know, a family of four has to make this much money, and they up and down, you know, they adjust it depending on how much money they receive. So they will be readjusting it because of the $28 million they just received.
And I have a personal comment, then I'll get to Lisa. When we debated this the very first time, we did talk about it, and we talked that it wasn't tracking, and the 40,000 was well. In fact, this particular motion, it was reduced, the original motion was to reduce it even further, and then it was an amendment to bring it back up to 40,000, and it was a pretty good vote, I think, and I can actually check that. It was to amend it. It was very close by 7-6, but then when the vote went, it was 10-4 to go at 40,000. That's just some information. Lisa?
I was just gonna throw in that I don't believe this line is just for fuel assistance. I think it's for rental assistance as well. So when people are in jeopardy of losing their housing, they can go to the town to help with rental assistance. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Scott, and then I recognize
Yeah, I
Bill
mean,
after.
I just want to, add that I think there's been a lot of focus on fuel assistance, and that is one component. But as selectmen, when we see the warrants, we don't see the specifics on where the money is going. We do know where it gets paid, and there is rental assistance. We do pay for prescriptions. We do pay for groceries. We pay for a lot of things. One thing that resonated with me when I saw this, what Evelyn sent me, was that typically what happens when someone is in need of assistance, we will send them to, I think it's Southern New Hampshire Services. And then they kind of network these folks with different other entities that will help them. The unfortunate part is that those other entities have also their funding has been cut either by the state or by other sources, federal sources. And Evelyn provided us a list anywhere from psychiatric care to child services to housing for seniors, you name it. So the expectation is that ultimately the town of Goffstown or any municipality in the state is the ultimate safety net. We then get them as a last resort, and it's Evelyn's opinion that because of that, we are probably going to see a lot more cases due to the fact that the other sources don't have the funding to help them. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? Richard?
Bill was before you.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. Thank you. Bill and then Richard.
And I'm not gonna vote for this, not because I don't think there's a need and probably an increasing need. I'm not gonna vote for this because it is one piece of a town budget that, again, we need to be sensitive to the people who need assistance the most. But we also need to be sensitive of the property taxpayer who pays the bill. And right now, I'm told that we're on track to see a record amount of foreclosures nationwide and in New England. And so we have to balance needs of several groups here. And I don't think we should forget about the fact that the taxpayer, taken on the whole, the taxpayer is not in great shape right now either, so.
Richard?
In 2010, approximately $25,000 was spent on this line. In the current year, when we got the year-to-date information, approximately $25,000 was spent on this line. Even if another $5,000 had been spent since we got this information, we'd be up to $30,000. One of the arguments I did not hear that was, dear selectmen, we have already spent $42,000 this year, and we anticipate in the last month a need to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 more. So it's obvious to me that more than $30,000 hasn't been spent. So the number that we have now of $40,000 reflects at least a 33% increase over 2011 needs.
Scott?
I just asked Sue the question. I'm glad that she's here. Currently, we've spent in excess of $36,000 in that line, just for folks' knowledge.
Unemployment rate's been going down, right?
We're in debate mode.
That is correct.
Where's my hammer?
The unemployment rate has been going down, therefore. Would that be a better preface?
If I recognized. Any further discussion? That's my hammer. I left it in the car, darn it. Okay, you ready for the vote? The vote, the motion is to, in all intent and purpose, to bring back direct assistance from 40,000 to 50,000, to add back 10,000 into that account. Ready for the question? Those in favor signify by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, abstained? Elizabeth, okay. Okay. Let me see if I can get, Lisa said yes. Scott said yes. Jen said yes. And Checker said yes. Dan said no, Bill said no, Brian said no, Dick said no, Guy said no, Ivan said no, John said no, Philip said no, and Richard said no.
Bless you.
Motion fails 4-9. The floor is open for additional motions.
491.
Correct. 4-9-1. The vote was 4 yes, 9 nays, 1 abstention.
I thought you're talking a line or something.
Elizabeth?
This is in Parks and Rec. Line 54530,
Which tab are you on?
Parks and Rec,
Yeah, I know, but
4.
you got a number?
number
I
4.
didn't want to, yeah.
Second
45,
page,
yeah.
Parks and Rec operation maintenance supplies, I believe is the line.
54530.
Yep.
Okay, well, 5-4 or 4-5?
54530.
Got it. Yes.
I want to add $4,200.
Let me,
I'm calling this motion the Bill Bates Memorial Motion.
good thing I don't name them.
Memorial, that
Not
means
memorial
he's-
motion, sorry, the Bill Bates.
I wish he was dead.
Memorial.
On that account, I'll second it.
Would you agree that I have lost control?
No.
All right, Scott, are you serious about seconding it?
Yeah.
All right, I don't quite have the motion yet because I want to make, I know we want to add $4,200 to it, but I'm not sure if we made adjustments to it yet.
Yeah, we did.
We did make adjustments to that line.
Okay, let me look, 45,201. I have to find it. There it is. And 54530, we modified that, and it's 1825 was our new number. Total pause, vertical close part, amend parts or main motion as amended past 8.5. And then we amended maintenance supplies, call the amendment, call the main motion, and maintenance supplies failed 013, okay. I'm just reading through how we had done that motion. That number got hit a couple times. The net result was 1825. That's the current balance in that account is $1,825. And you want to add 4,200, which will bring it to $6,025. There's a motion on the floor to increase maintenance supplies from 1825 to 6025, representing a $4,200 increase, made by Elizabeth, seconded by Scott. Elizabeth, would you speak to your motion?
I call this the Bill Bates motion because this is the one where he called the question on me before I could amend it. This is for the utility trailer. That was originally, we took this out of the budget along with the leaf vac machine. So the motion is not to add in the leaf vac machine, but simply the utility trailer for Parks and Rec. When we talked about the CIP expense of the new truck for Parks and Rec, there was a comment made that they were already getting a new trailer, which was actually not true. We eliminated this from their budget. I've spoken to Rick since then. This is, he feels, a critical piece, the highest ranking critical piece that they need. The existing trailer is rusted, it's falling apart. Its use is to carry the lawnmowers from field to field, and the lawnmowers themselves represent a significant investment. We really don't want the trailer falling apart as you're trying to move the lawnmower from one field to another. He has priced this out specifically to $4,200. He's shopped around, he's got a model. It does not have a lot of bells and whistles. It's a very basic model. And now that we did reduce the line for the truck, we reduced the line for the truck in the hopes that they would shop more efficiently for that. Which they can do, but they can no longer kind of shimmy the trailer into that. There just isn't enough money.
Scott, speak to your second.
I agree.
Philip?
Having seen the trailer often, it is falling apart, so I would support this motion for a new trailer.
Further discussion? Seeing none, there's a motion on the table to reinstate $4,200 to the line 45201-54530. It's currently at $1,825. This vote, if passed, would bring it to $6,025. Ready for the question? Those in favor of adding $4,200, please signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me get here. Dick, who else? Checker, Elizabeth, and Jen, and Lisa, and Scott. Good Lord, you were actually all sitting in alphabetical order. Gotta go back.
Should we do that more often?
Do that to help you, Dan.
Hang on, I gotta get back to Brian, and then Philip.
Brian, come over here.
Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be, I got Bill, Guy, Ivan, John, Richard, and I'm gonna abstain on that one to make it 851. That passes. Let me update my 45201 for 4,200.
It gets worse than that. It's okay, 'cause I took drugs.
Cool. Okay, further motion, Scott?
Yeah, this was the last item that I had discussed earlier. And I would like to make a motion to add into CIP on line 10-49030-70645.
30. Town Hall HVAC units, it's what it's called in the current budget,
Correct. And it would be similarly,
from 0 to 50,000.
that is correct.
There's a motion to increase Town Hall HVACs from 0 to 50,000. Is there a second?
Can I make an amendment? With the offsetting revenue of 25,000 also being included from the Mildred Stark Fund.
Okay.
It'll be, that has to also be added.
Okay. With increased revenues of the, okay,
I'll second.
estimating. Okay, and this is Guy. Would you like to speak to your motion, please?
I believe I was allowed to do that before, the reasons are the same.
Guy?
Same, it's a wash.
Further questions? I have one. Currently, what you said was, since it's in this year's budget, and the money we return to the taxpayers to offset, in the revenue, not only is there $25,000 that we would expect, but you said that you would return $1 million for the taxpayers.
Right.
Would I then expect to see $1,025,000?
Yes,
I just want to have that on the record.
Yes.
That it was said. Okay, you guys talked about that?
yes.
Okay.
Are we really in debate mode?
Yes. Say point of order, because that was totally out of order.
Point of order.
Yes, too late.
Said the same.
Plus Elizabeth caught it. Further discussion? Seeing none, ready for the vote? The vote is, do you want to add 50,000 to the Town Hall HVAC unit line? Those in favor signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and those opposed. Those abstaining. Dick and, okay, I'm gonna do a roll call because I only got 13. Dan, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Checker?
Yes.
Dick? You abstain.
No,
You just said no or abstain?
no, I'm staying.
You're abstaining, okay. Elizabeth?
Yes.
Guy?
Yes.
Ivan?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yep.
Philip?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 13-0-1. Are there any further motions? What do you got, Brian?
Parks and Rec, 66100.
Parks and Rec is 45201, 66100.
100. Motion to add
programs.
5216 back into there. Programs.
$5,216? Okay, let me go back, let me see if we made what the current balance is. $66100, it is currently at 15,000. It was 20216, so 15,000, and you want to add 5216, which would bring it back up to the original request.
Correct.
Okay. There's a motion to increase the program line in Parks and Rec from 15,000 to 2216. Is there a second? Checkers, you're seconding it? Wait, can you speak to your motion, Brian?
Yeah, with the programs, it's my understanding that they have corresponding revenues. And with the reduction in programs, you also have the reduction in revenues. So really, when he eliminates certain programs, it doesn't mean he's gonna get the same revenues he was budgeting into that line. And I don't think that's a big request to bring it back to where he wants to go. He clearly has a vision for where his programs wanna be.
Checker, speak to your second.
I didn't support the reduction the first time, and I am in favor of the money going back.
Elizabeth?
According to our budget sheets, the 15,000 that it's budgeted at now, it would be actually level funded, not a reduction from this year. But, I understand that this is heavily funded through programming, and it is, I understand, offset by revenue. In fact, Parks and Rec received, according to Rick, almost $25,000 in revenue last year, and I'm not sure of the exact breakdown, but I think most of it did come through this program line. So I think this is an effort to expand programming and thereby expand revenue potential. That's it.
Further discussion? Philip?
It's not, I guess it's kind of, it's not a point of order. It's trying to find the revenue line that would offset this.
It's
So-
around 25,000 somewhere.
So we want to pause for questions?
If you don't need to, I can provide, if you want.
Scott, I'll recognize you for debate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's in the revenue line and it's transfer, hold on.
It's a transfer.
Transfer out, Park and Rec, that's on the last page of your revenue under tab 9. It's 1049120399190, transfer out Park and Rec revolving fund.
Thank you.
24,724.
I always forget about that. Part transfer.
Further discussion on this line? Guy?
Yeah, if you look at the request of 20,000, theoretically, according to this argument, creates 25,000 in revenue, then we should make this 20 million. I mean, if we're you're asking for 20 grand that generates 25, let's ask for 40 and generate 50. Let's ask for 80, and I'm not quite sure yet how I can justify this.
Wow, I turned right and I saw 3 hands. Bill hasn't spoken, then I'll do Bill, Philip, and Scott.
You know, I
I appreciate that there is renewed energy in looking at revenues. I'm encouraged by that. That's great. I don't see it everywhere, but I'm encouraged that it's happening. And just because you bring in revolving fund revenues or whatever it's called, doesn't mean you wouldn't try to incorporate revenues for other offsets. So it is admirable that there are revenues coming in, but it's also the case that we still, again, live in an economy where things aren't well. So if there are revenues coming in, it's okay to offset some of the proposed 10% or more increase that Parks and Rec asked for this year. It's okay to use offsetting revenues to offset an increase. So that's why it was voted on the way it was, in my mind, originally.
Philip and then Scott?
I kind of agree both with Bill and Guy. However, this past year, if I remember correctly, it was when they started, Parks and Rec started charging for certain things. You got to build up people's acceptance to, you know, cost for some of these programs that have been free over the past number of years. I agree completely, Bill. At some point, our offsetting our revenue should be coming in and greater than what our expenditures are, and can offset some other expenditures. We got to get to that point. We're just starting down that path right now. So our expenditures should really match our revenue for the next couple years, and then eventually the revenues will exceed our expenditures. To the point that was mentioned, well, why not put in $1 million or $80,000? Because that's not a realistic number of costs for programs at this point. So, you know, the director put in a number what he thinks it's going to be. The revenue should match that, I think, and they don't. So I'm a little lost here, because like the ask is for like 25,000, and the revenues is 24,000. So it's not quite direct there, but I think they should be that way for the next couple of years. They should be matching, and then eventually revenues would be higher. So.
Scott?
All right, I did consult with the Parks and Rec director, and I think in the totality of this budget, and his pleasure in the fact that the trailer, which is the mission-critical item, was added back, as the Board of Selectmen rep and in consultation with the director, I'm going to respectfully thank the motioner, but decline the request and vote against this. It's a give and take, and the director believes that he can try to make it work with what he's got. He appreciates it, but I also think that this budget committee has understood the primary concerns of the department, and we are working through the revolving fund, and it's going to be a work in progress. Appreciates appreciates that, but also recognizes that there were some things that this budget committee funded that were mission critical, and I'm going to oppose this increase.
Bill, you had your hand up?
I have no further comment.
Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll restate the motion. It's to bring the programs back from $15,000 to $22,16, an increase of $5,216. Those in favor of the increase, please signify by raising your hand. That would be Philip. Those opposed? And those abstaining? Okay, I got Checker, Jen, and Brian who abstained. Everybody else voted yes. The motion does pass.
Voted no.
Oh, I'm sorry, voted no. Duh.
I make a motion for a break so the chairman.
Please, now let me see. Philip said yes. Everybody, that failed. 1, 10, 3. You get that right?
Yes.
All right. Are there further motions?
We have a tabled motion, do we not?
Point of order.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We have a motion, and there's nothing for the finance software to reduce it by $300,000. There was no decision made on that. The $300,000 is still in the budget. The motion does not need to be taken off the table and not acted upon, but if we want to act upon it, we can take it off the table, or a new motion can be made to be seconded. I mean, we can do a number of things.
I make the motion to take that off the table. We can make a decision on
Remove software from table. Is there a
Second.
sec? That was Elizabeth. This is not debatable. We either take it off the table or we don't take it off the table. Okay, the question is, should we remove from the software question? It is, finance software for $300,000. Those in favor of taking it off the table, please signify by raising your hand. Those opposed? Okay. And we're missing John, so this will be a vote of 13. Everybody but Jen and John wasn't here to vote, so that is off the table at 12-1. Okay, let me just copy the motion so I've got a list of it, of what's happening here. All right, the motion was made by John, made by Guy, seconded by John.
No, seconded by me.
Huh?
She
ta-
seconded
By
it.
Elizabeth.
But you're talking about tabling, right?
No,
Oh,
I'm talking about the motion that is
sorry.
now up for debate. The motion up for debate was on December 1st, was made by Guy, seconded by John, to reduce 49090 70490, that's CIP Nutland, finance software, $300,000, reduce it by $300,000 to make it zero. At this point, I would recognize individuals for debate. Guy?
Just quickly reiterate the reason I made the motion in the first place. I would love to make our town employees' jobs easier by saying yes to this. But, you know, when you buy a plow, you presume that the streets are gonna be plowed quicker, and when you buy a fire engine, that your house is better protected, or a cruiser, that your town is more secure. But I can't come up with an answer to the guy who's paying for this as to what benefit he would get, the taxpayer. I understand it makes our employees' jobs easier, but I don't see a corresponding offset in personnel. So I don't know what I would tell the guy who has to write the check for this. What is he getting out of a pretty sizable expenditure, especially considering that we've got an accounting software now. I don't know that we've looked into open source. I just can't say yes to this request. I just can't.
Bill?
I'm still going to speak against this, not because I believe there's a real good reason to have the software, but I just can't justify it this year. In this economy, the way things are right now, I can't justify voting for it this year. So while it is something that's probably preferable to have, I just can't justify it this year. Maybe a different year I would, but not this year.
I see two hands. I see Richard and then Elizabeth. Richard?
I think when Bill was saying he's against this, I think he was saying he's for this motion to reduce 300,000. And
That is
I am,
correct.
I am for this motion to reduce 300,000 because I haven't heard yet a good business case as to why we need to spend $300,000. As Guy said, I haven't heard about a decrease in productivity or a decrease in full-time equivalents or an increase in productivity that would add revenue I really just haven't heard a business plan that goes with this, other than let's get better software.
Elizabeth, see your hand, Scott.
I think the biggest reason to vote against this motion is the amount of time it takes to implement new software. If we wait until it fails, which we have signs that it's not working well when we have so many people doing things by hand, that it's gonna be too late. And then we're gonna end up with nothing or even worse shape. It takes at least a year to implement this and to make this change, and I think we need to go ahead and start doing it.
Scott.
With the permission of the chair and the committee, I'd like to pause and allow the town administrator to address any questions or concerns. This is one of the largest ticket items that we have. She is best prepared to respond to any inquiries than I would be.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We already tabled this so that we had time to gather more information on this.
Yes.
Okay.
But in all reality, we got a piece of paper, but we haven't discussed it, but the motion that's being made is legitimate under our own guidelines. There's a motion to pause. Is there a second?
Second.
Elizabeth? This is what we call non-debatable. So do you want to pause and get more information or not? If you say yes and it passes, we pause. If you say no, then we continue debate. Those in favor of pausing signify by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm gonna say yes. So that's 8. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let me get the yeses and the nos down, please. Guy was no, Dick was no, Richard was no, John was no, I think Bill was no, and Ivan was no, correct? Okay. Pause. It was 8-6. Sue? Do you have a moment to come up and respond to questions from the committee, please? Sue, you sent out on December 5, 2011, well, actually, Derek sent it to you, and from Derek and Neil to you, and gave us some somewhat technical information that I pretty much understood about the software. Because some of the questions I had were, can't we get someone who knows Delphi 3 and Delphi 5 to maintain if the system goes down? Did you have a specific question, Scott?
Yeah, I guess the biggest question the most important question is, what is the business case? Why do we need to replace this now? Why can't we let it go another year?
The dependability of the vendor to support it is probably the biggest reason that we've been looking to do this for the past 3 years. It's been in CIP. This year, it finally made it to the point of being approved in CIP. But like I said, it's a part-time person that provides support. So if that part-time person isn't in, systems are down, we continue to look for workarounds on this finance software in order to operate.
How often do you
Brian?
see this? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
How often do you see the system go down and that you use that support currently?
We find abnormalities weekly.
So you make a
something-
phone call every week?
Mhm. And we have to wait till that part-time person's working in order to answer it. You have, in that email, you have the history of this company. It was sold to Echo up in North Conway. They supported it for a while. They had more employees, and then it went back to the original owners. And
Which
that's
is
where we
Interware.
went. Interware, yes. Under a different name. I think originally their name was different when they developed this program. Then they sold it to Echo, and now it's the same proprietors, but it's interlinked.
Richard?
Part of the discussion earlier that we had about this was that people are doing double work and, like you said, workarounds. How many hours a week are people being inefficient because of this software?
We haven't tallied that, because we just don't have the time. We're trying to get the work out, and they haven't had the time to
Total
tally.
of 1 hour, total of 40 hours, can you ballpark it?
I wouldn't be able to do that, because the system is used not only by finance, it's used by the tax collector, and also the sewer department uses it for utility billing. So there's many different users of this software.
Guy?
Sue, I would love to do anything that I could to make all of you, your jobs easier. And I know how hard you guys bust your backsides and the problems you run into with a software that is not as current as what's currently available out there. Elizabeth made a comment, that we should do something about this before it fails. Software doesn't fail. Hardware fails. What happens with software is that as you use it, you discover bugs in the software. But software is binary. It's zeros. Ones and zeros, on and off. Tell me what I can tell the guy who's paying for this. Give me a reason to say we've got to get this. What benefit is he getting? I understand it makes your jobs easier. And I know you know where I'm coming from, because we all have to justify it to the people who put us here and the people who are paying for it. And yeah, I understand that support is part-time. As you use it, you find little bugs in it or things that aggravate you about it on a day-to-day basis, but what does the guy who's paying for this get out of it? Convince me to say I'm spending the $300,000 of your money.
Hopefully, after a year of implementation, we will see greater efficiencies, and we'll be able to get work done that we can't get done now that should be getting done. So things that are on the back burner will end up getting done because we're more efficient.
But the taxpayer's not missing what's not getting done because it's not getting done. You see what I'm saying? It's like a catch-22 here. I just don't know how to, I can't find a way to give this to you. And I'd like to. I just don't know how to do
It
it.
improves management, and it improves the reporting capabilities to the decision makers, the selectmen, when they want to report. Example, they asked for a report on overtime last year. We had to pay $8,000 to develop a report for overtime, and every report costs you money. Whereas if, in this, we would list every single report we need, and that would be part of that purchase price.
Okay, see, this is the first time I hear that we could be offset, there's an offset to this. I didn't know we're spending $8,000 to provide a report to these guys that you could just push a button and get and save the $8,000. I don't know why I didn't
I
hear.
don't know if it was 8,000.
Well, I mean,
I forget how much it was.
let's presume you're within the
Thousands,
ballpark.
yeah.
I mean, I don't have any numbers for that. I've never heard of that before. And how many reports do you provide? How many instances of $8,000 do you spend every year? Is it more than 300? Well, hell, then I would support it, but I'm not.
I got Bill, and then back to Scott.
Who would you be paying for these reports? I'm just curious.
The vendor. The vendor writes the reports.
The vendor that's maintaining it?
Yes.
So you get crappy support and you're paying them for reports?
Yes.
Because see, here's the problem I have. I believe this falls under a specific performance clause. If they're not providing acceptable service, and you get to decide what's acceptable, because you're the customer. If they're not meeting your expectation on support, then you tell them so, and you give them an opportunity to correct the problem. If they don't correct the problem, then, not that I'm really big into litigation, but we can sue the vendor for not providing you the support that you're entitled to. You pay for it. You're entitled as the customer to it. If they're not giving you the support, if the bugs continue to be maintained, then they're not doing their job. They're not doing what they're paid to do. That's not fair to you and to your people and, of course, the town. That's not fair. If you're not getting what you're paying for, then you have legal redress for that. The other thing is on escrow is, I understand what you're saying about escrow. You can ask for the escrow, and before you certify to the escrow, it has to be right, or else you can't certify it. If it can't be right, and they can't make it right, guess what? They owe you money. So, to your point about offset, if they can't make it right, then it's time for them to make an offer to settle this. And a way to settle it is to pay the town money to go away. That's the way it works in the software world. So, I understand what you're saying about the escrow. That's probably splitting hairs at this point. Probably all are under the bridge, probably don't want to hear it. But the point is, if these people are being paid to support and you're not getting proper support, then you as the customer
Yeah.
have legal redress.
We've heard it before, so I
Okay.
want to go on. Scott?
Um,
And I have
I
Ivan.
think, I appreciate Bill's, I think you actually made the point for us of why the software needs to get replaced. Because I'd like to just indulge me in a 30-second role play where I call up the vendor, and I tell the vendor how dissatisfied I am. And the vendor says, well, you're only paying me $8,000 a year, and although you've threatened to sue me for performance, I'll tell you what, I'm going to return the $8,000 a year, and let's just call our relationship over. To which, that's probably what would happen. Now we are stuck with absolutely no support because we have no contract and no support whatsoever, and now we're looking for another person who's going to support it. And now we're looking for someone who's going to support software that is 11 years old, proprietary, and we're back to square one. I just think we are in a pinch here because our software is very, very outdated. This is the lifeblood of what we do. We process thousands and thousands of POs and checks and you name it to all of our departments. Consequently, when we talk about savings and a business case, I believe that I talked about, anecdotally, Don Boer told me that he thinks that collectively it's like 30 hours a week they spend in all of the departments, including all the inquiries that they get from other department heads, secretaries who are looking to run reports, which they usually can't, and they have to do the workarounds, or somebody has to figure out how to run it. And that's police and fire and DPW and all of them when they're looking to run reports on what's going on, and simple things like overtime or what they're or how things are tracking or trending. So it's not just the finance people that are inconvenienced, it's also every department head. And myself, working in an environment where I do have web-based financial software, it does make you're able to make better decisions, and better decisions make you more efficient. So I think we're dealing with a very antiquated program that has hiccups. We're also dealing with, from the other thing that you had shared with me was that the database itself is rather unstable, and that's problematic as well.
It's how it was programmed, not,
Right.
every field should be raw data. It's not. Some of them have calculations in it, but we don't know which ones do.
So it's a little bit more complicated than simply just not. And I agree with you, Bill. I mean, I wish we could just simply say, hey, you got to, pony up here because you didn't do something. But they could easily just walk away from us.
That's not true.
I've got Ivan, Philip, and Elizabeth,
Are we in
and then
debate?
back to Bill.
I feel like we're in debate.
Point of order, we're still in questions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounded like debate, but it was
Yeah.
kind of like roundabout explaining, I'll get you on the last, Bill, Ivan.
Yeah, Sue, I have a question also, but just an observation that I appreciate how hard admin, finance, everybody has worked on this. And I also have a sense that in this room, there are some 3 or 4 really talented people, computer-wise. I'm not one of them. But my sense is people have really offered here to help. The question is, do you see any possibility with working with people in this room, outside the box, outside the 9 dots, to solve through open source or source coding or all the things I don't understand, but I'm clear that there are people in this room who are experts in that. Do you see any possibility of working with people in this room to work together to solve this problem?
Before you answer that, I think I just understood Ivan to volunteer a few other people.
Yes, I did.
That's what I heard too.
And I know Dan has
And I-
experience.
and I left
writing
me off the
finance
list.
And he clearly put himself off the list, yes.
That's right.
With all this extra time.
No, Sue, if she wants to respond, I don't know how,
My IT department has looked at open source, and they've said there is nothing available, open source, that would meet our needs. So I trust their expertise in that area. Also, I've talked to other town managers and town administrators in the state, and none of us like to spend this kind of money on finance software, but that's the norm.
Philip?
If I understood you correctly, and I kinda understand where you're going, when you said you had to spend extra dollars or whatever the number was, it was for a special type of report.
Exactly.
So it's not every time you run that report, you gotta spend that money. It's for
No.
them to create a special report.
Exactly.
Are you saying then with a new software package, we would have the ability within that money to create unlimited special types of reports? Or would we have to state the special reports that we want as we're purchasing it?
I would print out every report we're currently using and make sure that that's part of the package that we purchase.
But then if we come up with, because I'm in an industry where we write reports all the time, and we sit in a meeting also, and, hey, it would be nice, we do it in this committee, it'd be nice to see it a different way. If we did that after we purchased it, we would have to pay extra for that again, probably?
Or you could,
Write it
when-
into
well, when you buy your
contract?
software, you see what they use for a report writer, and you train your IT department on that report writer, and then they write them.
Okay.
Ad hoc reporting, you can write it into the RFP, Crystal Reports, for instance, get a database that's actually something that's supportable by others. I'll put you back on the list.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Elizabeth?
I had two questions, actually. One is you mentioned that sewer's going to be using this to generate, so are they contributing to the cost?
Yes.
What is their contribution?
I didn't bring that down with me. I think it was,
Roughly.
their module was maybe,
25,000, I think.
was it that high? I thought it was a little lower.
So is it?
Whatever their module, the utility module costs and the support
So
for
is
it.
the price 325,000?
No.
But, so it's 300,000 minus
Minus
then
their
roughly
support.
25,000 for them?
Whatever their support was, yeah.
Okay, so the balance would be what we would be. My other question is, what about the possibility of leasing software?
If I can, while you think about that, let me throw this out. No matter what happens, there's gonna be a sunk cost unless they wanna amortize the conversion. Conversion in this, in the actual setup, is twice as much as what the actual licensing is.
Okay, so that really wouldn't solve the problem, you're saying?
About 2/3 of the cost was installation and conversion of data and training.
Okay.
Does the installation include hardware, if we needed it?
Yes.
Question asked and answered?
Yeah, I'm done.
Can clarification what you just said?
Yes,
Hardware if needed?
yes,
That's
If
kind
you
of an
needed a
open-end- That's
server.
kind of an open-ended statement, isn't it?
yes it is. This is a question and answer, so we can do this. Has Neil budgeted for a server or two in the 300,000?
Yes.
Do you know what those costs are?
I do not, I don't have that breakout with me.
Do you know if he probably budgeted, do you have a SQL, oh boy,
Yeah, you're not gonna get that answer.
yeah, I'm not gonna get the answer either.
Well,
Because SQL Server, the software itself is gonna be somewhere between, if it's enterprise, between 8 and 12,000, depending what you're doing. The server you can get for about 6,500. Work it through, so you might be talking 20,000 if they have to do the whole kind of thing. If they don't need it, because they already have something in here and they can use the engine, cause I believe they have the backup, and the data pool, so,
Just make it a small amount in the whole package.
you define small if you like. I can only go with the dollars. I've got Bill and then Scott.
My whole point to saying that, Scott, was, I don't have the fine print in front of me. Alls I'm trying to say is there's this is a basic business law thing, offer and acceptance. If they accept the fees to provide support, and I'm not reading the fine print on the support contract, so I don't have that in front of me, but if they accept that, they've accepted all that comes with it, and they have to satisfy the customer. That's all I was trying to say. My point about open source, when I originally mentioned it, is, no, open source, for the most part, you're not gonna find a fully baked software program out there right now based on open source, but that's the point. Open source allows creativity. IT practitioners, not to volunteer him, such as a guy and other practitioners like him, to have an easy way to develop software and tools that will meet the need, and what you get is something that's built to order, and you don't get a license fee. And then that is, because it's based on open source, it can be easily modified and improved over time, because of course open source is continually getting improved over time. So that's the promise of open source. I never meant to say there was a fully baked product out there, ready out of the box to go based on open source. It's the platform and the open and the flexibility, like you said, that allows IT practitioners who are in that area to create something reasonably quick and efficiently.
Okay.
That's all I was trying to say.
Let me just say something before Scott jumps in, because it's relevant to the thing. So if you get a framework of an open source piece that is most likely not fund accounting, because we need to put the fund accounting portion about the appropriations and estimated revenues, those kind of things, you're still gonna need to likely have to hire a programmer and do some data conversion, and we throw a dart at the wall and say, what's that, 100,000? Don't know. So instead of 300, you can easily spend 100 from what I can see, maybe even more than 100, maybe 150, to search that out. So no matter what, it's gonna cost something, maybe it's only half as much. Thought process. Scott.
Here's a question for Sue. We had talked last year about the police revolving fund, and also we're dealing with different revolving funds. Does the current software allow us to implement or to create additional funds?
It's very time consuming. It can be done in a limited way. But it's been a big drawback on doing the police one, because they wanna do all the payroll out of it. And so our other funds don't allow us to do the payroll piece.
Okay.
Richard?
Speaking of police, when the police and fire and Parks and Rec and other folks came before us and they had a number, they were able to tell us every single component of that number. 300,000 to me seems like a swag. Do you have the detailed breakdown of what the 300,000 is?
We haven't gone out to bid on this, because vendors don't really wanna give you all the detail and put a bid in if you don't have anything in your budget. So what we do is we get estimates from vendors. So they interviewed 4 different vendors, and the ballpark seemed to be about 300,000, and 2/3 of that cost is for the installation, the conversion of data and training, and the other third is the actual program cost. And then they said about 25 to 30,000 a year in an annual license.
What were the range of estimates?
The
Low to
only
high?
2 of the 4 could provide all the needs that our current software does, and they were 300 to 400,000. Originally, we were also interviewing them to do planning software and customer relationship management software, but we drew all that back and said, no, just replace modules we have. And that's how we got to that $300,000 to $400,000 range. Again, these are estimates, they're not firm bids.
Scott?
I'd like to motion that we close the question and answer period.
There's a motion to close.
Sure.
Close Q&A made by Scott. Did I hear someone say sure?
Yes.
Richard?
Consider it a second.
Okay, non-debatable. Those in favor of stopping our inquiry, signify by raising your hand, please. I see no hands down. All hands up, right?
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion, there's still a motion on the table, and I see Scott's hand and Guy's hand. Scott?
Yeah, I just, in closing on this, I obviously, I respect everyone's opinions around the table. Many of you have a lot more experience in computers and software than I do. But the conversations that I have with the folks at Town Hall and the department heads leads me to believe that the software package that we have has a lot of hiccups to it, and it's a very time consuming process. One thing that I feel pretty strongly about is, obviously, I have to respect the will of this committee and whatever decision comes forward. But if that decision is unfavorable, I think this is a big item, and it's a big issue. And I would hope that the expertise around this table would help us get through this year and work towards a resolution so that we don't have this again next year. I hope this has raised the heightened awareness that we need to deal with this software package in the short run.
Guy?
I agree with Scott in hopefully getting to a close on this. I just want to bring up something that Bill touched on a little bit, and I think Dan did too. We're talking about looking at 300 grand for this, getting software from this vendor. There's been talk about open source, but the third alternative, and I'm sure Colonel Meany's going to back me up here, is to build the thing in-house for a hell of a lot less. And I have personal experience numerous times working with the Navy where they decided we are not going to pay $50,000 a seat for this particular software, and there's no such thing as a commercial software package that is perfectly tailored for your particular requirements. There's just no such thing. So what you end up doing is that on top of paying 50 grand a seat or whatever it is, then you pay to have the modules that they build tailored for your use, then you pay support. Instead of that, and on 2 occasions on projects I personally work with, the Navy took $2 to $3 million responses to RFPs and said, to hell with it. And they hired a contractor to build the software on site with the actual users who fat-fingered the data, and it was tailored. I'm talking about SPAWAR. And we installed that in Charleston, we installed it in San Diego, and it's still working, and it cost the Navy 300 grand instead of 2.2 million, which was the average that they got from commercial vendors. Instead, they hired a contractor to build the thing, and I was one of the 2 guys who built it. This is an option that we haven't considered either. And I think, let's take a pause here for a year. Let's look at open source. Let's look at maybe building this thing in-house. Instead of opening a can of worms, believe me, this is going to go much more than 300 grand. Because you've already mentioned 2/3 of this is data migration. The rest, they're going to have to build modules. They're going to find bugs. There's going to be annual support costs, per seat costs. Let's look at the third option, at least. And I certainly am always happy to help anybody in the town with anything on this if I can.
Elizabeth.
I call the question.
Okay, there's also Philip and Dan on the list, just so people know. Is there a second to calling the question?
I'll second it.
Okay, the question has been called. Those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Opposed? 1, 2. Abstained? 1. Okay, Dan said no. Richard said no. Jen said yes. Lisa said no, and everybody else said yes.
Lisa
I
abstained.
abstained, actually.
Lisa abstained. I hit the wrong button here.
Should've brought coffee.
Motion passes 11-1.
Go get some. And some
Philip
coffee.
and Dan.
I have
Phil?
a box of tissues in my car.
I guess I agree that we should be looking at possible other options, but again, going back, we don't know what that other option is or what the cost of that other option. There's going to be a cost to it. Our in-house people may not be qualified to build the whole software, but might be qualified to support and write reports. We don't know. I don't wanna speak ill of our IT department, I don't know their expertise. You know, if we put the money in the budget right now. No, that's incorrect, Bill. Let me finish my statement, okay? We're talking about potentially spending the money. If we don't spend the money, it goes back to the general fund and gets put back. We're talking about needing some software. I think I heard pretty much everyone around the table agree that something needs to be done. This year, next year, whatever, but we're talking about doing it. If we put some money in the budget, they can look at doing that and start the process, because it's gonna take time to write a program to do it. And if you're gonna hire an outside consultant, it's gonna cost money. It's gonna take time to do it. So if you wait the next year to put the money in, you're pushing off, putting out an RFP to get somebody, so you're looking at potentially 2 years out before you can even start something, or 18 months, whatever.
All right, and I get to get the last comment, this is a personal comment. Two things. One, there's no one on staff to do this. The reason is, everybody who's on staff right now, my reasoning for making that statement is everyone on staff now is doing the job that they're doing. So the total expectation would be, there would be some funding to bring someone additional in to either look at a piece of software that is the framework out there or start from scratch or something. So you would have salaries and benefits or something to pay that person or another person, which would put the whole flavor thing together in the conversion package and the training and everything else. My second point that I wanted to make, and one of the reasons why I had voted no to call the question, because one thing we hadn't talked about is in past years, when we came to a large expense and a decision, we actually asked the selectmen to allow the voters to make an independent decision on it, which would be a special article. The other thing, and without going that far, because I am torn on this, because I know it's something that's kind of needed, but I also know that we can probably limp with it because it's expensive. And looking at what's gonna happen this coming year, just because of the way things happen if we look at the total budget, okay? There's gonna be an increase, even if it's a default budget. There will be an increase. How much that is, I'm not quite sure yet. So if we even did not fund it and brought it because of the process, we have a public hearing to hear what people might say, which might sway our decision. And we also have the deliberative session, where I wouldn't mind if we went to the deliberative session without it funded, and for the selectmen to put it before the people who attend that meeting and say, listen, do you guys want to support the $300,000 for the software? Okay, and see what that vote could be. And if the people at that level would want to go there, because I don't have a good feeling either way of whether, you know, the people would support this or not. It's a complete guess for me. And I would likely sway that they wouldn't more than they would for the nature. That's the end of my personal comment. Duties, the question has been called. There's no further debate. It's a yes or no or abstain vote. Do you want to take the finance software currently at $300,000 and bring it to 0? Those in favor signify by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstained? 4, 5, 4, 7, 4, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to do a roll call, and I'm going to go backwards this time. Scott?
I'm a no.
That's a no.
Yeah.
Richard?
Yes.
Philip?
Abstain.
Lisa?
No.
John?
Yes.
Jen?
No.
Ivan?
Yes.
Guy?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
I voted yes, but I want to be an abstain.
You're going to be an A. Dick?
I abstain.
Checker?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
Why did my mouse move like that? Bill?
Yes.
And I'm going to say yes because I want the people to do it, which means the vote passes 7-4-3.
Can I speak to my abstention?
Yes, abstention people can speak to it. Philip?
I abstain because, again, I agree that something needs to be done, but I also didn't get to the point of making an amendment to the motion or requesting that the Board of Selectmen put a special article, think about putting a special article in for this. And that's really where I would like it to be, if it's possible. That's why I abstained from the vote.
Elizabeth, do you want to read anything?
My reason was pretty similar to Philip's, and that I also found Guy's statement convincing that I think it needs to be looked into a little more. I'm not sure I'm ready to say yes or no at this point.
And Dick, you want to say anything?
I abstain because I just don't understand all that's being said. I know that something needs to be done. You know, this is something that was talked about 20 years ago about these computers, and it seems to me we're living in a world where computers have been around for long enough that we shouldn't be in this predicament. But I don't think we know where we're going right now.
Okay, those were the 3 abstentions. Are there further motions?
I concur.
Scott?
I don't know what the bottom line is, but whatever it is, I'd like to make a motion that we bring that number forward to the public hearing.
Let me tell you what it is. The bottom line is $21,445,582, and I will repeat that. $21,445,582. If you want to do a comparison, okay? That is $306,101 less than what the Board of Selectmen requested. If you want to do a little math, if you remove the software, that 300,000 CIP, the difference was 6,101 less than a selectman requested.
6,000?
Yeah. $101 less
We
than the
did remove
selectman.
the software.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
No, but if you take.
No, I'm saying if you don't relate it to the software, every other motion we made
Oh, so we only took
represented
$6,000
$6,101.
Uh-oh.
That's interesting.
The software alone was the 300.
Question.
And the, okay, but hang on.
I'll
We're-
second
we're
the
in a-
motion.
Okay, there's a motion,
Yes. I seconded it.
yeah. Scott made a motion, Philip second. We bring to public hearing. And I read the number, 21445,582. 21445,582. Okay,
Point of order.
okay.
You mentioned it was $306,101 less than the selectmen.
I believe that's correct.
How much more is it than the current adopted budget?
$2,518,199.
Thank you.
Do you guys get that?
Say again?
And that includes, don't forget, the sewer and EMS. If you do not include the sewer and EMS, it's $2,316,225, no.
Huh?
Let me look to see, make sure. V minus Q, V takes into account the adjustment, yeah, 2,316,225. That's the change from the current general fund appropriation budget of 16, this is just general fund appropriations,
Okay.
627,251.
But sewer is offsetting, correct?
But I'm not including sewer, because we didn't make any changes to sewer, and sewer is going up 432,000, but EMS special revenue is going down 230,000.
Well, that's what I mean. If you're looking at the $21 million, there is
There, yeah, I took the 20 million
500,000
out.
of that
Right.
is offset by revenues.
Right, and that's the number I was gonna read to you. 2011 is 16,627,251 for 2011. 2012, just general fund appropriations is 18,943,476. And that should be in one of the spreadsheets I had sent to you, but I just threw the adjustments we made tonight in addition to that, onto that form. And so the motion is predicated on me having gotten that number correctly, and I believe it is. So anybody can go ahead and,
It's within 1,000. It's within 1,000.
it's probably within $1. There's a motion on the table, or less than that, it's perfect. Scott, you wanna speak to your motion, please? This to bring to public hearing 21-445-582?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna speak to it, I think it's.
Okay. Philip?
I think we've done our jobs over the last months. Well,
And Guy?
Just a reminder to the committee, this is not, we're not locking this in. This is what we're gonna bring to public hearing, see what they have to say, and we get a chance to take another shot at it afterwards.
Further discussion? John?
I'm gonna vote no, and the reason is because I think we should have level funded, and, I think that's what we should have brought to the taxpayers and let them decide with special warrant articles. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question? Are we gonna bring 21-445-582 to public session? Those in favor signify by raising your hand, please. Those opposed? Any abstentions? So I got Bill and John that said no. Everybody else said yes. Is it necessary for me to accept a motion for non-reconsideration so we can actually do that number?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Non-reconsideration.
Okay.
Motion to
Non for-
non-reconsideration.
Restrict reconsideration.
Sure. Well, until public's,
Yeah.
yes.
This is, no, it's restricting reconsideration of the number to go to public hearing.
Right.
Because what we can do right now is we have to do the school side, okay? And then after you've done the school, someone can throw up their hand and say, I want to make an amendment to the amount going to public hearing.
Unless this motion
But
passes.
it's weird, but that's what I want to do. So those in favor of just really saying, this is what we're going to do, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? We got Ivan added to the opposition. Okay, cool,
Point of
thank
order.
you. Sir?
Was that a debatable motion?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
I just asking the question to make sure we're doing proper. Not that I wanted to debate it, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay, I had Bill, Ivan, and John vote no. Everybody else voted yes. Let us then segue to the school, please, and give me, tell you what,
Fine, segues from the
Andrew, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break, because I need to prep up for the school and make sure we're cool, and you guys can relax, okay? Is on, that means we are back live. We are now up to, looking to get a number to go to public session for the school. That will entail asking for any additional motions you might have and go through the same scenario. Let me give you, unlike the town where it was, I had a little expense summary sheet, okay? And I gave you the numbers. I need to read you these numbers and see if they reflect what you have independently done, okay?
This is for this is like
This
a
is for the
recap for the school. of where
Recap
we're
of the
at?
school, where we are at in total. We adopted the starting point, total funds, at $36,910,253. Can I get a confirmation?
For me.
Okay. We made motions on Tuesday, the 13th, which resulted in a reduction of $225,623.
Different than what I had.
We'll go over that after, one by one, to make sure, because what I did was I looked at the motions, how they were being made. I have motions on Thursday, the 15th of December, netting a reduction of $143,305.
That I can confirm. What was the first one again, Dan?
225,623.
No.
Okay, let's go over the 13th, and it's possible, because I just wrote a little ditty here, and I may have gotten it on the wrong one. We reduced 100, yeah, did you find it? What's the difference? What are you off?
I have 233,903.
I don't remember doing this for the town before we started.
Yeah.
Dan, is that because
Did
we
we
don't
kind-
know
so
what the, Guy, is that because you don't know what the associated benefits are for the
I gave-
library para?
I'm sorry.
Hang
what?
on a second,
That-
one at a time. What I did was I sent out the expense summary. before the town. I shipped them off to you guys, and you guys had them. I shipped them off on December 1st, so you had the data. I didn't do this for the town, so I wanna make sure my numbers are accurate so I can get corroboration in order to go forward tonight, and that's why I'm reading you the numbers. You have more than I have for the 13th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got 128, we made transportation, that was 24,642, right?
Yep.
We did the professional program, the Power School as amended, 20,000.
Yep.
We have, I'm gonna reduce this to 70 so I can read it all, 70%.
You have the 128 for the smart.
That started off, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The motion on general supplies failed. We have a $2,000 reduction for field trips. We have a 1,600 for school-wide assemblies.
Mm-hmm.
5,000 for operating repairs.
Yep.
We have 3824 for field trips.
Yep.
We have 5,000 for repairs as amended.
Yep.
We have 1175 for dues and fees.
Yep.
We have 1810 for maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
720 for admin dues and fees.
Yep.
We have 14,168 for fuel oil.
Mm-hmm.
1125 for admin dues and fees.
Yep.
The 80, no, that as amended. We have 16,559 for paraprofessional salary and associated benefits,
Mm-hmm.
which I still have to come up with that number, so when we do the motion, we have to say associated benefits, so I can figure out what it is.
Right.
And that's all I had for that day.
Can you enlarge
I-
that?
I don't know.
Add them all up,
Oh, yeah, hold on, I got it.
I do it both ways, I get 225,623.
It's right, it's
2,
wicked
3.
small, Newton.
Must be correct, because I was adding this manually,
Okay.
subtracting this manually.
I just added it manually and I match
Dan?
225,623, I match Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I was, like I said, I was just calculating this on the fly.
What was the 143,
What did you get?
305?
225,623.
That was the following day.
Okay,
The
that was
following
on
meeting.
Tuesday. It's
Okay.
gonna end up
Okay.
being
And we
a little
balance
bit
with the
higher
following
the
meeting.
benefits for that para. That was from Tuesday.
So I have to put down associated benefits. Okay. Yeah, Phil.
Can you just read those two numbers again?
With the 13th and the 15th?
Yes, sir.
The 13th was 225,623, and the 15th was 143,305, plus associated benefits, which I believe will be either in the hundreds or low thousands. Yes, Philip?
Just to so that's a reduction of the request at 368,928 right now,
Yes, plus associated
plus
benefits.
associated benefits.
Yes.
Thank you for clarification.
Okay, then there was another segue going on that, is there anybody else that needs to say something before we go in? Because we had additional information on the town, but we didn't have anything.
Just to clarify, so we started with the 36,9, some
10,
numbers,
253.
and then we, no, 36,910, yes, 253. And then we have reduced it 368,928.
Correct. And so we're at 36541,325.
Does that include the benefit reduction?
No, I have to do the benefits, so it's likely going to be I have no idea. Yeah, but the paraprofessional salaries that were reduced, it was reduced by 8279. No, and then it was amended.
It's okay.
Wait a minute for a second.
No, I'm just looking at it.
It was amended to 16,559. We took both of the paraprofessionals out. So whatever benefits are associated with the 16,559.
So that's the default budget,
So that is gonna definitely be a few, probably a couple of $1,000.
I was just doing
Yes.
some.
Did we vote on the library para?
I don't believe you voted
And
on
at the
both
high
of
school?
them.
Let me look.
You did not.
204, which is Mountain View.
Right, so what two paras are you talking about, Dan?
It says paraprofessional salary and associated benefits in 204, 2222, 112.
That's one paraprofessional, right? Is that
That's
just
one.
one?
That's only one?
That's only
I
one.
believe, because there was
Okay,
one at the high
then
school.
it's only one. I don't have the count here, I only have the dollar amount of 16,559.
What's the dollar amount? What- Yeah, I think
$16,559.
that's the one.
Yeah, that's
Not
the
the
one.
two.
Library, Paramount, and View, and associated benefits.
In fact, we can go to the line input, and I can put that in 204.
Can I use this for?
Yeah, it's yours.
2222.
Well, I know, but I, you know.
112, media para added by board. So I would say that's the media center para added
At
by.
Mountain View.
At Mountain View. Further clarification and understanding where we are. Okay, you ready to go into motions?
No.
Richard?
I'm ready, can I
Okay.
do one?
I recognize you for a motion.
Okay. Page 74, if you're following along on the paper,
What school?
Bartlett,
Location 101.
yes. The 7 digits are 2410
Yeah.
811.
Dues and fees.
The dues and fees, currently, the number is 800, proposal is 0.
Okay, let me just verify we haven't modified 101-2410. I do not see any modifications to that. So there's a motion to reduce dues and fees from 800 to 0 at Bartlett. Is there a second? That would be, I saw Scott first. Richard, can you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, not only is this consistent with what we've done at other schools, but with all the time that we have had off and me looking for ways to fill my life with budget committee stuff, I
Wow,
gotta have humor
That's
for the
sad.
folks who have stayed with us.
that's cool.
And we know there are
one
thousands
person.
of
The
them.
folks here.
That's not plural.
I looked at some of the benefits that a member gets when they pay their dues and fees. They included advocacy on Capitol Hill, professional liability coverage, and job protection defense funds. And that further solidified my opinion that it's not something taxpayers should pay for.
Scott, your second?
I'm not seconding it for all of those reasons, but I want to be consistent with what we did. And I know that they do that, but they also do some professional development and how to hold, make sure teachers are accountable for what they're doing. There's a lot more than that, but that's part of, I guess, what they do.
Further discussion on this line? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. The vote is, do you want to reduce the dues and fees at 101 from 800 to 0? If you do, please signify by raising your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. That would be 1, and there are no abstentions, am I correct? Okay, the deed is done, the vote is taken, it passes 13-1. Elizabeth, recognize you for a motion?
Yes, this is at the high school, page 232. Account, function 2222.
And it's underneath that number.
Line 112.
What's the location for the high school?
305. 305, 2222, what was the last three?
112,
Okay, got it. Is that paraprofessionals?
that is the library paraprofessional.
Okay. Can you give me the page number again, please?
232.
Thank you. 40034?
I don't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I do.
That's to the right, next to the
Oh, yeah,
23,475 base.
yeah, I see it, yeah.
Requested new program line. Okay, and you want that to be?
I want to, adjust that down by $16,559 and associated benefits.
And do you want that to be 23,475 when you're done?
Yes, that is what I want.
Okay.
Second.
Plus associated benefits.
Second.
Okay, while I'm doing this, would you speak to your motion, please?
Again, it's a matter of consistency. This is the library paraprofessional, the second library paraprofessional that was going to be restored. We did not, or we changed this, we adjusted this at the middle school. I think at this point, given the expenses, they're gonna have to limp along with volunteer work at this point to help out. I just don't think we can do it this year.
Scott, your second.
Same thing.
Further discussion? Seeing none, you ready for the question? Those in favor of reducing paraprofessional at the high school, 222-112, from 40034 to 23475, that's a 16,559 reduction, plus associated benefits, signify by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, opposed, 1. Motion passes, 13-1. I'm just looking back, make sure, because we haven't touched this yet. Nope. Further motions? If I don't see further motions, I'm gonna ask if, our current, I will indicate what our current number is and see if we wanna go to public hearing with that. We have a current number, which includes all funds, of $36,523,966, less associated benefits currently. Does anyone want to make a motion to bring that to public hearing? So moved. I saw your hand. Do you want to second it? I saw Elizabeth's hand.
Sure.
Okay. Elizabeth and Philip, would you like to discuss your motion?
No?
Okay, Philip?
Nothing to be said.
Further discussion? Seeing those, all those in favor of bringing that number to, public hearings, signify by raising your hand, please. Opposed? And I think that's everybody. Did anybody not vote? Do I have to ask for an extension? Okay, that would be Ivan said no, Bill said no, and John said no, and everybody else was a yes. That is 11-3. Does anybody want to make a motion to restrict reconsideration?
I will.
That's
We might actually vote on this one.
that's Jen. Who would like to
She
second?
votes on them all.
Did you say it, Lisa?
No, I did not.
You gonna vote yes?
Philip will second it.
You gonna vote yes on this one?
Those in favor of restricting reconsideration, please signify by raising your hand.
Yep.
Those opposed?
Changed.
You're there, and, well, I saw him, you wanna try and thank you, abstention? Okay. This is no, yes, no, yes,
No.
yes, yes, yes.
No?
That passes 11-3.
Oh, really?
At this point in time,
Tonight, wasn't it?
wow, look at that, like
It won't happen.
9:28. I am very pleased and happy that we have numbers to prepare during our Christmas break so that we can present it to the public on January 11th. I haven't actually gotten a response from, Catherine, whether or not the school responded in the positive. So, I'm not sure, but I'm still expecting the 11th or 12th. Be aware that if there's like a really raging snowstorm,
You know, we can tell if I go on the web and see if she
and see if it's there.
posted it.
Oh, go for it.
They
if you would,
announced it
please.
at the school board meeting, that.
It's on the
it-
Goffstown website.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. If it is,
It
then,
is.
then it's, then she wouldn't have put it on there if it wasn't confirmed.
Oh, so it's already there. Oh, fantastic. That's great. That's good news. Okay, so what I need to do right now is get a date from you guys on when you would like to meet in January after the public hearing. Because we haven't actually made that, that decision on what day we'll meet.
Didn't we do it the Tuesday afterwards last year?
We did.
Might not be bad. Get it out, get it
It
done.
gives us a time. Come on. And there is a time limit.
Right.
I love my phone. Come on, hit the button. I'm trying to get my calendar.
So.
Okay,
Wednesday,
yes,
11th.
the 17th. Are you guys good with meeting on the 17th? Because what we need to do on the 17th, and we don't go home till we get it done, is we have to do this, whatever the end result, let me say it this way, is we need to come to a number to send to deliberative session for both the school, for the town, and for the water district. Okay? We need to make recommendations on the numbers. Every appropriation article that has a warrant for appropriations, we have to make a recommend or not recommend, okay, decision on every single one of those. And that's pretty much, we should go through the minutes, okay, at that time, because there's a lot of them, okay? So, I can tell you I have not gone through all of them in detail yet, so I don't know if all the motions are right or wrong, so I'm not really wanting them to do it tonight. And I can see, I don't see a lot of people saying, yeah, but we want to. So, we're gonna need to really do this so that we can vote on the 17th. You all good for Tuesday the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make it our next meeting, Tuesday the 17th.
And when is the hearing?
Excuse me?
When is the public hearing?
The 11th, the week before, on the 11th, on Wednesday 11th, with a snow date of Thursday the 12th. Dick?
Yeah, and I just refresh my memory, the sewer budget, there was some items to reconsider on that. Did we do that?
I don't remember anything on the sewer budget.
Well, yeah, remember the Manchester charge went up?
Oh, that was for the, that wasn't for the sewer budget, but that was for the fire department's hydrants,
Oh,
not sewer.
no, the
There was-
sewer put in a budget, and then they brought some corrections in, like 5 corrections on it.
Oh, you know what? They did ask for something.
Yeah.
We didn't do it.
Right.
We could do it.
Aw,
We
man.
restricted, no, we restricted reconsideration. We're done.
We did. Okay.
No, only kidding. Keep those in mind, because we can do those in January on the 17th. Scott, might be something you want to look into?
So I'm sorry, I wasn't,
Paying
I
attention?
apologize. I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, the sewer
Sewer?
budget, Dick remembers there being something.
Oh, they wanted an
that someone-
adjustment.
There was an
Adjustments.
adjustment,
Yes,
the
sir.
big one was like $300,000 on the
Yeah.
Manchester sewer charge.
Yeah,
And we did not do it.
And then there was
And I don't
a
remember
couple
it.
other
all
minor
right.
ones.
I'll put that in my little book here.
Yes, that'd be a good thing. I don't believe I have anything else to go before you guys. Do you guys think we do?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, then I will accept your motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Elizabeth, seconded by Richard.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Don't.
Yeah, don't.
I wasn't, I
real
didn't
hard.
mean to.
All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, let me get serious. Did anybody actually say no or abstain? Because I didn't see a
John
couple of
usually
hands.
does.
I'll go.
He said-
Okay, that's unanimous.
Can I borrow
Thank you,
my
Andrew.
table?
We are adjourned.